everyone, TeriGigi here. I'm here for part 2 of the anxiety series. And first of all, I want to make sure to tell you that I've not uploaded part 1 yet, but I'm going out of town, so I needed to video this before part 1 went up. So I haven't looked at your questions or seen any of your comments, so it hasn't even published. So keep that in mind while you watch this one. Okay, anxiety part 2. Today we're going to talk about the fact that you're not alone in this and that there's a lot of ways to think about it, that you can repackage your anxiety or your depression and look at it differently. And I think it's really, really helpful. And I've come across some gems today in my research. The first thing I want you to know is that if you're anxious, now I'm talking about, perpetual anxiety, not just once in a blue moon. I'm talking about, when it happens a lot to you, or you just feel like you're in this perpetual state of, you know what I mean? You're not alone. Now, this is from this little book, Fret Less, More Faith, Less Fret, More Faith by Max Lucado. And I'm gonna have to put my glasses on, so chances are that you know someone who struggles with anxiety, or it might be you, but the National Institute of Mental Health says that anxiety disorders are reaching epidemic proportions, and in any given year, 50 million Americans will deal with panic attacks, phobias, or other anxiety disorders. Anxiety is the #1 mental health problem, but let me promise you, it can cause other health problems. #1 mental health issue among women, and are second only to alcohol and drug abuse among men. And shocker, shocker, the United States is the #1 most anxious country in the world. It's costing so much money to you and the country. It costs the nation $300 billion in medical bills, lost productivity. Also, the use of sedative drugs are skyrocketing. We're 3 times more likely to experience, each generation is 3 times more likely to experience these things than the generation before. So imagine that. I was 3 times more likely than my parents. My kids are 3 times more likely than me, and then their kids, my grandkids, are 3 more times likely than their parents. Do you see how it's just stacking up? So you're not alone in this. This is rampant, but that doesn't mean that it's hopeless. It doesn't mean that. What is the reason for all this? Why? We all keep asking ourselves, why is it going like this? Why? And it says one of the main reasons is change. There's too much change in our society right now. Listen to this. Researchers speculate that the Western world's environment and social order have changed more in the last 30 years than in the previous 300 years. So in my oldest son and daughter's lifetime, there's been more change than the 300 years before they were born. I mean, that is incredible. And it's just going to keep going, I think, because with technology, who knows where we're going to be? Probably going to go into some sci-fi thing. I mean, I don't know. I hope the Lord comes back before that. Oh, it's just talking about the constant information that is flying at us day in and day out, and we cannot escape it. So, before, if there was an earthquake on the other side of the world, your grandparents would learn about it in a week. Your parents would learn about it maybe on the evening news, but maybe a couple days later, a day later. But we learn about it as it's happening. And so you begin, when you're not just looking at your little neighborhood and your state of where you live, of what's going on in your area, you hear about what's going on in every other area, so you feel like it's everywhere. It's everywhere. And you just start to think about it. So then when regular things happen to you, you get way more anxious than maybe you used to, because it's like you're just piling on the constant flow of information. And we cannot handle this much information. We were not built to handle this kind of information. So we have to figure out ways to block it or to stop feeding on it constantly. The guy that's writing this book said he has a memory, a childhood memory that he cherishes. And he says every night his father would stand at the kitchen sink in his t-shirt and boxer shorts and have a glass of milk, buttermilk with cornbread in it. My grandmother always, every time I was at her house before bed, she would have her buttermilk with cornbread in it. I don't care for that, but that's what they used to do. And then his dad would make the rounds in the front and the back doors, checking all the locks. And once everything was secure, he'd step into the bedroom that his brother and him shared. And he would say something like this: "Everything is secure, boys. You can go to sleep now." I mean, what kind of peace did that give those boys back then? That their dad is coming in and saying, look, it's all secure. You can go to sleep now. Guess what? The Lord can tell you that too. You can pray at night before you sleep, and he will give you a sense of security. Just go to sleep. I've got this. I've got this. No matter what, God's looking, watching, knowing, and involved in your life if you believe in him. So, a couple of other things I thought about in this series, in this thinking about anxiety and everything, is an observation that I've made about women, young women in particular, on the internet. There was a time, maybe last year, year before, where it was absolutely almost like a contest. I'm not making light of it. I'm just telling you what I observed, because I watch a lot of young women between, 22 and 32, something like that. And they're all having babies, and it's really fun to watch. But for a while there, everyone was doing a video on their anxiety and depression. And it almost seemed like, to me, it became a contest to say who was the most anxious, who was the most busy, who was the most depressed, who had the worst situation possible. And it was weird. And I would look at these absolutely gorgeous, thin, very well off, because they were very popular YouTubers, so they make a lot of money. They have everything, it looks like, but they're still depressed and anxious. And one thing I noticed over and over is they'd come on, come on YouTube and say, my anxiety is this and this and this. Yeah, I have anxiety. My depression has been going on for X. I have depression. And they'd say it in such a way that, to me, it seems like they were owning it. I think that is a bad thing, because you don't want to own something that you don't want to have. So don't use those kinds of words. Don't internalize that you have this now, because like the chicken pox, you'll get over it. But this is something that if you own it, you're owning it up here, which is way more detrimental to your health than having the chicken pox temporarily. So you might say, I feel depressed today. I feel anxious today. But don't say my depression, my anxiety. It's kind of like when you think about people that are overweight. When they're ready to lose weight, they'll say, I'm ready to lose the weight. They call it the weight. They don't say, I'm ready to lose my weight. Even though they do really own that, because it's real and physical on their body. You can touch it, basically. But they call it the weight. It's like it's over here, and I'm going to send it further away. It's the weight. It's a thing that's going away, okay? So I just thought that was an interesting observation about people. Now, I was thinking also about anxiety and depression, and how there's a tendency a lot of times to just give in to it and accept it if you've had it for a while and you haven't been able to overcome it. Think of it like this. Company and fish start to stink after 3 days. Have you ever heard that saying? After 3 days, your company's kind of ready to go. You're kind of ready for them to go. Not really. I have company longer than that, believe me. But it's a good time. 3 to 4 days is a good time. Well, if you're feeling anxious, you're feeling depressed, think of it as company. It's just visiting you for a little bit, and you need to let it move on, because it's going to start stinking if you keep living and wallowing and being in that state. Something else I thought about is, I thought about this today. Anxiety and depression, it's kind of like a garbage truck. You hear the garbage truck coming down the street, and you know, it's rattly, it's stinky, it's not very attractive. But when the guy comes, and sometimes you watch them, if you're standing by the window, you might watch them, especially if they have those things where the arm comes up and dumps your trash and comes back down, you know. And so the trash man comes, and you're not fond of the whole scene, and you're not fond of the trash truck, but you're so grateful. Why? That those men came, and that truck is taking away all your garbage. What if you had to get rid of it? What if you had to take it away yourself? What if you had to pile it in your car and drive it around with you for a while until you could dump it? It's not like that. What do you do every day? You have a kitchen trash can, and all day long you throw the garbage in there. Hopefully it has a lid, or it's in a pull-out thing, or you have a cabinet door that goes over it. You don't want to look at that garbage. You throw it away and you don't think about it. But then if you've had shrimp or something for dinner, you got to take it out that night. You have got to take it out. We get fresh shrimp from this guy all the time, and we have to take the the shell off. No matter how many Ziploc bags you put those shells in, it'll still smell by the next morning. Horrible in your house. Okay, so you're putting your garbage in, and what do? You take it out to the can, you drop it, and do you really think about that garbage anymore? No. No, you don't. When the trash truck leaves, do you ever think about that garbage? Do you ever have to revisit that garbage? No. Think about anxiety and depression as garbage. The thoughts that you're having are garbage because they're causing you so much angst that maybe you can't get off the couch, or maybe you just never feel at peace, and you're just walking around, and those thoughts that are garbage are always in your head. It might be something that people have said to you in your past. It might be something your parents said to you. It might be something that an ex-boyfriend said to you when he was dumping you. Garbage. Garbage. Now let me ask you this. You've got we all have it. Everyone has the garbage. Everyone has the thoughts and the things and the worries and the stress, the things just the what ifs, especially. That's number one. Number one, anxiety, I think, is what if. What if this? What if that? What if this? Because if it's already happened, you're dealing with it. Okay? But what if? That's just all in your brain. What if the garbage man backed his truck down your driveway and dumped it all? Everyone's garbage. Your children's garbage, your parents' garbage, your best friend's garbage. Dumped it in your driveway. What would you say? You would say, come back. Get the garbage. I don't want it. What if they pulled the garbage truck up and dumped it into your family room where you hang out all the time, or your bed? Do you want to sleep in that garbage? Do you want to spend time in that garbage? You got to remove the garbage. Remove it. And the only way to remove it is to control your thoughts, because your thoughts are your future. Your thoughts are what you become. Your beliefs are where you're headed. So next week, we're going to talk about how to stop the garbage, how to get rid of it, how to stop thinking about it, how to control your thoughts, things you can do, action steps that you can take to control your thoughts, because that will take you so far in this anxiety and depression thing, you won't even believe it. So again, if you haven't watched the first video, watch it. I have some disclaimers about exactly what kind of depression and anxiety I'm talking about. Okay, at the end of this video, y'all, or right now, or in the description bar, whatever I do, I'm gonna link 2 videos. One of them's pretty simple and silly, And it's not making light of people's phobias and stuff like that, but it's funny and there's a lot of truth to the video. It's an old skit that Bob Newhart did. It's 6 minutes long. It's worth your watch. The second video I'm going to put in there is on a channel called The School of Life, and it's how to simplify your life. And it's very, very interesting. It has a lot of information in it that I think you would enjoy. Talk to you later.